saying I will we'll get going with monetizing intangible capital, and I will pass it off to Mary Adams.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, and just a quick reminder, if you would turn off your cell phones, and hopefully we'll have an engaging conversation that you won't need them during the next hour. So our panel today is going to talk about monetizing intangible capital, and we thought it would be helpful to start with just a real quick definition of what we mean by intangible capital. So intangible capital is a catch-all phrase. Some people use intellectual capital for the 80+% of value in our economy and in our corporations that is now off balance sheet, that it's undefined, the accountants don't know how to explain it, but it's all the value that's been generated through really the knowledge economy. And there's so much to explain about that, and we're going to try to get into a lot of the nuances. But the basic components that are included really in any organization are first, obviously, people and the knowledge and experience and competencies that they bring to the table. The second piece is relationship capital, and we have a lot of conversations about that today. Networks and relationships with customers and partners and all the people all the stakeholders external to an organization. And really, the closer you are to those people, the more shared knowledge you have, and the more that becomes an asset of the organization. The third and really most powerful component in many ways is structural capital. That's knowledge that stays in the organization. So when people say all of our value goes home at night, that's true, but hopefully there are things that stay behind. So that's processes and data and all the operationalized knowledge that can be used over and over again. And you know, a FedEx is a great example of that. FedEx owns planes, they own trucks, but the essence of what they are is an end-to-end process, which is probably 50 sub-processes, but that basically can track a package and facilitate moving things around. So it's that process, that structural knowledge that stays in an organization. And then sometimes we use a fourth category, which is your business model, your strategic capital, how it fits into a market, and then how you organize yourself, bring those pieces together. So when we talk about monetizing intangible capital, again, the sum total of all that is the majority of the value, and for most companies that are here, it's like 95% of your value, if not 100%. And so when we think about how to monetize that, and we're gonna use more words than just monetization in a second, that's what we're talking about. So if I could open up, earlier today somebody tweeted about the conference that half of the people were here to profit by the system and had businesses they were trying to launch, and the other half of the people are trying to break the system. So we thought we'd get a sense of the people in the room. Are you here to try to monetize your own intangible capital, or to figure out alternate ways of creating the intangible capital, or new systems that break the old system? So are you here for a company, monetize your own? Just show of hands. Okay, and then the ones that want to break the system? So it's a little over half maybe to break the system, right? So we want to try to balance both, because the economy must go on. We must figure out how to live in it, and so we'll try to talk about kind of both sides of the equation, but that helps us understand where we are. So I want to open it up to the panel. I'll introduce each one really fast, and then let them talk about their own views of monetization. So first on my right is Arthur Brock, and Arthur, like so many people in the room, has a lot of different things he does, but one of his very interesting activities is the Metacurrency Project, which thinks about whole alternate ways of thinking about value and measurement. Greg Wendt, in next one down, is actually a wealth advisor, EP Wealth Advisors, but he also has a lot of really interesting things he does around corporate social responsibility, which is another way of measuring the success of intangible systems. And then down on the end, Dan Robles who's the founder of the Genesis Project, and also Social Flights, which was just featured in the last session. And Dan has a whole stream of thought. He's a very active blogger talking about alternate forms of currency and exchange. And so since I'm with you, Dan, I'll let you start, and then we'll come back this way about how you view monetization of intangible capital, and feel free to add your own words around that, about the conversion of value. So.
Okay, well, to answer the question you asked the audience, I think the system is already broken, but I think it can also be fixed. When I was working on the NAFTA mutual recognition document, that's how I started this work. That was the first attempt to treat knowledge like a financial instrument between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, between the engineers. So I was down there in '92, and this is how all this work started, and I had a bit of an epiphany, and I noticed that there was a flaw, this little tiny, indescribable flaw in market economics that could be corrected. It was just a simple reversal, that technological change must always precede economic growth. But we are going about the process of globalization as if economic growth can somehow precede technological change. And it cannot. That's not sustainable. This is. So everything that I've done since then was trying to correct that little flaw. And so when you talk about intangibles, I think more like invisibles, because human knowledge is essentially invisible. There is no knowledge inventory. I cannot look up the zip code and find out how many IP telephony engineers live in zip code 98026. Does not exist. And that is what we need to get to. And I'll leave it to the rest of you to help me get there.
Greg?
Looking at systems and looking at planetary ecosystems, if you imagine the global biosphere life support system, which is the meta system that our economy is a part of, there's an effort called the Global Footprint Network that says every year the planet's ecosystem is able to replenish itself to the degree that we consume it is a measurement of, are we eating into our principal or living on the interest? About 1985, the Global Footprint Network did an analysis that we were surpassing the carrying capacity of the biosphere to support our economy. So that's what kind of came into my mind in the 80s in economic school around what is sustainability and what are the limits of the world around us to support the economic model. And that larger system that contains the economy is something that you might call an intangible, or in Economics 101 we would call it externalities. And in the corporate social responsibility movement, bringing those externalities into a model that is the language of economics and money, that we can identify in a quantitative way or a qualitative way that it could be understood quantitatively.